Hi, friends. Welcome to Enlightened World Network. Dr. Ruth Anderson and Sue Broome here for messages from our loved ones. Today's a special day. I'm going to try to find the chat. Here we go. It's a special day. We're going to be talking about transitioning and several of the aspects about that. And we invite you to join us and to put the name of someone that you have loved and lost in the chat if you'd like to receive a message from them. And when we say receive a message, what that means is Sue has created a deck of cards, divinely inspired. And as you're talking about the person that you loved and lost, she shuffles those and a card will come out and share a message with you. And while she's doing that, I'll be keen in on the energy of that person and just share with you the images that I'm receiving from that. So we're glad that you're here. Sue Broome, I'm glad that you're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here as well.
So let me just type in here for folks to please leave the name of someone they would like a message from.
That would be wonderful.
Too bad I can't talk and write at the same time.
No, and I was moving around screens because it's like, okay, I don't need that. I don't need that. Let's see what I can. And hopefully my sound is okay because it's people say it's better with this thing on.
I can hear you just fine.
Good.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll just share a little bit. We've got someone in the EWN family who is deciding whether she's transitioning or not. And Sue's heart is closer to that person. So we were talking before we came on about how Sue is doing with this right now. Sue, do you want to just share what you said about how you were feeling? Let's just decipher that for a minute.
Well, first I said I was numb. That's kind of what it feels like. And you said, well, you might be numb, but not numbed with an ED. And I said, absolutely. And you mentioned holding space. And I said, well, that makes sense because I think I feel numb because I feel like I'm not all here. You know, yes, I'm going through functioning, blah, blah, all that stuff. But I just feel like I'm not, and I'm getting good sleep, I'm eating well, all that, but I just feel like I'm not fully here. And so holding space and for everything that's going on, absolutely.
Yeah. So when we talk about holding space, so what does that look like for you? What does that mean for you?
You know, one of my favorite sayings that you've been saying to me over the last few days is, I'm holding you in love. And that's what it is. It's holding uh, and holding is the best word because it's not like I don't feel like I'm sending love. It's just the love is there and allowing it to just be. Like when I was there yesterday morning, all I said, because you know, they appear not to be awake. Eh, okay, but the hearing is always the last to go.
Right.
And all I would do, and I was speaking very softly, but just letting them know how loved they are. To make sure that those are some of the last words that they might hear from me. And how kind and compassionate and, different things that I appreciated the relationship over the years. And again, letting them know how loved they are.
And even though you're not in the room with her all the time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you can still feel that and be
Yes.
sending that
Mm-hmm.
intention.
And I'm imagining, because more family has come, just that they're all standing around her bed, just, uh, and I don't think that they are like this. However, this is how I see it, is they're just feeling the love that they have for her, going to, it's like they are creating this cocoon of love.
Right. Well, and you brought up an interesting thought before we came on, and that's there may be some folks that are not comfortable enough to go be with that person who is, oh, I got a rainbow on my, thank you, to go be with that loved one as
Right.
they're passing. And
Mhm.
really, not everybody can do that. I mean, that's a difficult thing to do. But thoughts on how someone can share love, even if they can't be there physically.
I, I think part of it is when people are sharing stories. There was somebody I was talking with yesterday, and I think she ended up going, but I don't know. But some of the how did I know her and different things, and hearing the laughter, and that's all part of it, because that feeds into, even though, again, she's not kind of she's very 3D in a lot of ways. However, those stories, that laughter is going to surround them with love. It's going to feed that bubble, that cocoon of love. So thinking about them, and the last things I said to her before I hung up is, hold the thought in your heart, whether you're going to go or whether you're not.
Mm.
She goes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that right there, holding that thought, holding them in your heart, that's the love.
It is the love. And I do believe that that love gets passed on. Now, whether you don't even have to say it out loud,
Mhm.
but just thinking it and feeling the love for that
Mhm.
person.
And even if you're sitting there and all of a sudden you start crying, that's still the love. You know, the it I know that there are many people who feel, oh, I don't want to talk about them because I might start crying. But that's also a sign of how much you love them, how much you'll miss them, how much you enjoyed spending time with them. That's all part of it.
Well, and we do know that thoughts
Mhm.
as energy can transfer from person to person. We know that.
Yes.
We've lived that. The night that my father-in-law passed, I I was home, my husband was with him. I had the two kids, little kids, and so I was sitting in the living room with them, and all of a sudden I just thought, "Oh, I wonder if he passed." I don't know, I just got some kind of a hit of something. And I went into the living room and I just sat by myself and I cried just because my heart was just so with them and I loved him so much. And I heard him say clear as day, "You're a good mother."
Mm.
And I looked at my watch and it was like 6:39. And I went back into the other room and I called my sister-in-law who was there with Dad. And I said, did your dad just pass? And she goes, yeah, he did. So I got the message from him of his love on his way out.
Yeah.
We can get messages from
Mhm.
each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, just thanking them. Yeah, it's such an interesting time. But you also said something interesting. You were talking about the friend that wasn't sure if she was going to go visit. And you said, wasn't sure if she was going to go or not. And I thought, what an interesting choice of words. Because just a couple days before that, we were having that conversation
Mhm.
about the friend who was sitting on the fence, not sure if she was going to stay here in
Right.
body or if she was going to be transitioning.
Yeah.
So it is a fascinating choice of words. And I do believe that she had a choice. She was making a
Mhm.
choice whether she was going to stay in body and return to better health or just keep moving toward transitioning. I think it's a choice.
I think it is too, and like the other, I things happened really fast, even though it didn't seem like it was, but looking back, all of a sudden it was like, and
Yeah.
that's also something, I don't know if I can see her that way. I want to remember her how she was, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that because when I think of her, she's looking pretty good. Yes, it's like, okay, yes, I've seen her a couple times, since she got home. Totally. It's like, but that's what she's going through right now. But that's not how I'm going to remember her.
Right. Right. Yeah. When my grandfather died, we were in the church for the funeral, and I wasn't very old. I was 18, 19. And my mom says, oh, come on, take a last look at grandpa. I was like, no, no. I had no interest in seeing him not in his body. And she goes, oh, he looks exactly the way he used to. And I said, no, not gonna. Mm-mm.
No, I remember when my mom passed away, at the funeral or must have been the funeral home. Yeah, the funeral home. Back then, I don't know if it was Catholic or Lutheran, but doesn't matter, open casket. They always did that. They don't do that anymore. Thank goodness. Well, some still do. But my dad took one. Now, keep in mind, I'm 13. My dad took one arm. Grandma Lindy, who was my mom's mom, took the other arm, and
Made you go look?
yep. And I'll tell you what, parents, grandparents, don't do that to a kid.
Oh, interesting.
Well, and going back, so 10 years before that, maybe not quite 10 years, but when my brother died, they still took a lot of pictures of the person in, yeah, because there's pictures that it's like, okay, that's what they did. Person in the casket. And they did that. I mean, you look at you if you watch old westerns, they would do that. It's like remember them the way that you want to remember them. And if you don't want to see them in the casket, if you don't want to go visit them, do not feel guilty. Let that go. You have to do what's right for you and remember them the way you want. That's your connection with them.
Right. I'm reminded what a sacred, sacred time this is for you, Sue, and your beautiful friend's family.
Mhm.
It it is truly a sacred time. And I remember when my mom was passing, and it was during COVID, so we couldn't go in. I was standing outside her memory care room looking in the window so I could see her. And all of my beautiful friends from EWN, including Sue, came on Zoom and just did this beautiful time of holding my mother, assisting with her transition. And I got to watch what was happening on a physical level as well as on a spiritual level. And one of the things that really touched me was I could see Sue's mom there.
Mhm.
And I could see some of the other ladies' mothers there.
Mhm.
And they were, I would say, total goosebumps, actually. I would say the word is anointing. I don't know if that's the word, though, but my mother's arms with oil.
Mhm.
And it was just part of loving her as she was making her transition. But what beautiful, sacred time that was. So thank you, thank you. And to your mom. Thank you, Mom.
It was fun to watch because I could see that as well. And now maybe was it all of the mothers who have transitioned, or
Yeah.
were some of the mothers who may still be here were there? So it was only the transitioned. Okay.
Transitions.
Because
Yeah.
that's what it felt like to me, but I didn't know everybody that was there that day. But
And the beautiful thing was, my mother had never met you. My
right,
mother had never met your mother. But
right.
but the love that was coming
Hmm.
through us, through our loved ones,
Hmm.
we are so interconnected. We all tend to think we're separate. We're not that separate. We're really all quite interconnected. Well, what a beautiful example of that, and a beautiful example of how sacred that time is, too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I I feel that her family next door, I'm sure that they will feel that way. Just from different things that she said, even though, and that's just it, even though you might not do these messages like we do or talk to angels, but there's a really awesome connection. So I think they are going to be looking upon it in a positive light.
Well, and so interesting. She's got a dog and a kitty.
Mhm.
How are the animals doing with having her there?
So Simone the dog has been, she was very excited, and she's had people in the house now, which that she's she's kind of back to her normal self.
Hmm.
And Mittens remembers her and has gotten up on the bed a couple of times, but the second time she touched on a very sensitive spot.
Wow. Okay.
And so she had to be taken off. And now there's been so many people that she's been in hiding.
Yeah.
So she's going through her own thing. And I don't know how many animals are there now because I knew more were coming. So I don't know. She's probably definitely in hiding.
Well, we know that animals are so in tune
Yeah.
to what's happening with their owners.
Hmm.
Yeah. But it's interesting because when we've had to put down several dogs, I mean, we've had dogs for 30 some years. So we've gone through several of them. We always, if we have to put them down, we try to do it at home. So
Mhm.
that way it can be more comfortable and, we can be a mess and whatever. But it's interesting watching the other dogs as that's happening because
Mhm.
I just think they have a better understanding of the life and death cycle
Mhm.
than we do. I think we tend to get a lot more freaked out about it. I think
Yeah.
they're a lot more maybe realistic about it because
Mhm.
it happens. I mean, we get spooked, we get, upset, and they just kind of go, okay, I see it, I know it. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. And it was nice to see that Simone, because she would respond. This was a couple days ago. She was still responding to Simone if she was being held up to the bed. So she would reach out and open her eyes and pet her. So
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. So, an interesting thought came up to us a couple days ago while we were watching your friend decide if she was going to stay in body or not. And I said, so how can I best support you? And it was really just love me as I'm loving her while she decides.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because when we tend to take it personally, if somebody leaves us, if somebody dies, and when you see it roll out like this, you
Mhm.
know it's not personal.
Mhm.
It's just the choice that a soul is making, and it's not about us,
Right.
you know? So how to best support number one, the friends and family that are watching that happen, but
Mhm.
secondly, how to best support the person themselves as they are trying to make that decision. Any
Right.
thoughts on that?
Well, the thing that I've seen looking back just these last few days is I have been here to support the daughter
Yeah,
once she got here,
definitely.
and I'm glad that I am. Especially, like even yesterday I said I'm really glad that you can just, vent and just, yell and feel comfortable just like spewing.
Yeah.
Uh, because otherwise it's the family, but it's no, she knows me, but she doesn't really know me. She knows that I've been there, that I've been able to for her. The
Sue, for some reason, the Wi-Fi is just being really bizarre all of a sudden, and we lost that whole last sentence. Can you say it again?
oh, says your internet connection is unstable.
Oh, yours is?
Um, no, I think that's actually yours
Oh,
that was coming through.
oh,
Um,
okay.
I think it's yours. Yeah.
Can,
What did so
what
I
was it?
I was I was just glad I was able to be there to support the daughter as she's going through some of the frustrations and yeah, just being there to listen to her, she's a really good hugger. That's also really nice. So we could both hug and cry. Um, and to let her know how much her mom appreciates her, even though she would say she's frustrated, but how much she appreciates her and how much even just the things that I've seen her, take charge and be doing, it's like, and even with the animals, it's like, oh my gosh, they absolutely needed you here
Mm,
because I could see such a shift in both of them. So, that's part of supporting her as things are happening.
Yeah. Well, my guess is, and I'm totally, is the word amorphizing, where you put human characteristics on an animal.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of what the real word
I
is.
don't know what the word is either.
Right. But I can tell when an animal is feeling insecure, whether it's food insecure or emotional stability insecure. And these animals have been loved by
Mhm.
people that they didn't know before their owner left the home. And so,
Yep.
and she was gone for quite a while.
Mhm.
So it just feels like having the daughter there is bringing that emotional stability of
Mhm.
we're okay. We're not going to be alone. We're okay.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Because I think both of them were feeling like, what is going to happen to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I told her, I said, yes, it's very clear how much Simone loves you. And she's told me different stories about Mitten. So I'm so glad that they've totally bonded. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Very sweet.
Yeah, you think, that's one of the things that you do see on the Nextdoor app. And lately, I don't know what it is. There's either lost animals or found animals. There has been more in the last few weeks than I have seen since I've lived here. But
It's interesting.
I know what I was going to say though is you think about the people who do transition, and if there isn't a family member to take care of them, because I've seen posts like that too, is, this person passed away and here's their little dog or here's their kitty, and you think about all of the all of the animals, the companions that have been here, that now all of a sudden they are by themselves because they're feeling the loss as well.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, an interesting thought too. It seems oftentimes once the family all gets around and everybody's there, then people start wondering, What's she waiting for? Why is she still here?" And we don't necessarily ever know the reason why somebody is here until the moment that they're not.
Right.
So, some people would say, well, that's all predetermined, that's all predestined. And other people would say, no, I think you get to choose when it's going to be. And um, other folks will go, it's just a crapshoot, when it happens, it's going to happen. So, I don't know, lots of things come to mind on that. But I've told Sue before that with my own father, we knew about how many months he was going to have. He had mesothelioma, and we had no idea the amount of healing that was going to take place during that last year of his life for family members, for friends, for him. Huge healing for him during the last year. But one of the most important things was the last 24 hours because it was a huge time of healing for my sister and me and my dad, and our coming together as a family in ways we wouldn't have, couldn't have, had we
Right.
not had those last hours. So I'm glad we had those last hours.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you don't know. Nobody knows what's going on in
right.
and their mind, their heart. Like I said, they don't look like they're aware, but there's a lot more of an awareness And especially when you hear about people that have had near-death experiences and they can see their body on the operating table and they say that they can see themselves floating at the up in the corner and they can go back and say, well, hey, Ruth, this is what you were saying. And this is what this person was saying. And this is what you were doing. And you're like, I guess you really were up there.
Yes, it's like a level of hyper awareness, don't you
Mhm,
think?
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's all very interesting. And, I'm glad over the last few days, there's been a lot of people coming, that her daughter said she wanted to make sure and get a hold of this person and this. So, at least the people have been gotten a hold of and they can come or choose not to or whatever. So there's definitely been some people that have stopped by and shared anything they wanted to share.
Well, I know you worked with hospice for some
Mhm.
time, and I think one of the common misconceptions about hospice is that number one, they're going to be there 24/7. And
Mm.
certainly in our case, we saw them like an hour a day.
Right.
So that was a misconception. And I think the other misconception is once hospice is called in, tick-tock, I mean, you are like short timer, but hospice can work with you for 6 months and then you renew. So,
Right.
even though we think it's going to be imminent, it isn't always. It isn't always.
Right. I had one of the ladies, I really liked her. Her name was Shirley. Um, she graduated off hospice, I think twice, and she could talk up a storm. She had a memory that was like she would remember stuff we talked about 2 weeks ago, and it's like, dang, I don't know how you remember that stuff, Shirley. It's like, but we used to have such interesting conversations. One of them that I remember, she would see out of the corner of her eye, she would see, she said it was a man, so I don't think it was a shadow. And he had, is it a fedora hat?
Mhm.
It was that kind of a hat. And she said she could see him walk by the doorway. And I always kind of wonder, and I'm getting chills as I say that. I think it might have been her dad because it was about the time frame that her dad um it's one of the things that I think she had mentioned about her dad because I didn't feel like it was like the angel of death or anything. It felt like it was a positive thing. But it's like, maybe he was just checking. It's like, oh, you're still doing good. I'm gonna keep on walking. I don't know.
Or we'll be here. We'll be ready when you're
Yeah.
ready. Here. Yeah, interesting. But that is you hear about that phenomenon that when people are transitioning, that they start seeing
Mhm.
folks and hearing folks. And I can tell you absolutely true from what I have experienced.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was with the husband of a friend of mine and her while during the day or two before he passed. And the three of us, actually, there were four of us laying on their bed together. And I was just kind of stroking his arm. And all of a sudden, he said something like, "Hi, Shirley, how are you?" And I said, I was like, uh, "Jeannie, who's Shirley?" And she goes, "That's his mother." Well, he was in his 80s. So no way in the world was mom around, right? And then his sister showed up. And so he's having a conversation with his mother and his sister as if they
Yep.
are right there in the room with us.
Yep.
It's fascinating, really.
Well, and the other thing is people are going to leave, whether if they want people in the room, they'll be there. And if they don't, they won't. I'll tell you, there was one lady that I was sitting vigil. So vigil was I would sit for 4 hours, but it was, they thought it might be the last 48 hours that this person was going to be here. And she was in some kind of facility and there was no family. And honest to gosh, I walked in the room and I think a minute passed and she was gone. I think she just wanted somebody there. Just, didn't, not that it had to be me. She just wanted somebody there.
Yeah.
There was another a guy that passed when I was with him, and I had just told him that his wife was down the hall laying down on a couch, and the kids, I can't remember if there was two or three, and they were older kids. I said they're going home. They should be home in about 15 minutes. And 10, 15 minutes later, he left. I went and got his wife, and because she wanted to be, it's like, he needed to know that everybody was safe and sound. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. Interesting.
So if you're supposed to be there, you're going to be there. Don't, even I had a friend of mine, her and her sister, they spent days in the room with their mom. And I don't know, one went to get something to eat, one went to the bathroom or something. And that's when she passed. It's like, yeah, if you're supposed to be there, you will.
Right. So interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. Life is interesting. So
Since you're in the thick of it right now, what advice do you have for other people that might be finding themselves in the thick of it?
if you're visiting, let them know how loved they are. And maybe sharing what they meant to you. Did I say that right?
Mhm.
How you affected them, what was their friendship like? Because, that's something that you don't always tell somebody.
Right.
And maybe that's something that they need to hear. And one of the things that actually her and I have always talked about back and forth is her and I we've always had such interesting conversations about all different kinds of things. And it was always fun. Yeah. So letting them know what they mean to you, how they maybe affected your life, if it feels right. If it feels right, if it feels uplifting.
Yeah. Well, you've also been an advocate for her while she was in rehab and whatnot. I mean, you would be in there asking questions or have the daughter ask questions or whatever. But you were kind of you were observing and sharing things that you would notice, but you were advocating for her when she could not advocate for herself.
Well, yes and no. I would ask her questions that would come up to me that she could then ask, the doctor or the nurse or whoever, because I never was like interacted with if she had a doctor or a nurse there, I usually would leave because that's, that was their time. And so I would ask questions. It's like, and from my perspective, it was just because I didn't know. So from that perspective, yeah. And I know that she would say to me, it was when she was thinking about getting a procedure, and she goes, well, this is what I'm going to ask them. Are there any things that you can think of? It's like, well, what about this? What about this? So from that perspective, yes. But it was always back on her. It's like, okay, here's what I would ask. Here's what I don't understand.
Yeah. But you were another set of eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, it's somebody does, if somebody is in this kind of situation, they really do. They need somebody there all the time. I mean, once her daughter got here, it was like, she took charge because it was stuff that I wouldn't have been, I wasn't doing. I was involved enough and as much as I could be, but I could definitely see that, especially if somebody is pretty much there, and they're still making their own decisions, but maybe they're not as there as you think they are.
Yeah.
So having somebody that can be there with them and like being at the doctor's appointments or being at when the nurse is talking or, all that stuff. It really is important to have somebody there.
Yeah. Good point. And sometimes it's just to take notes or to be able to talk about it in the car on the way back. Well, did you hear when they said blah, blah, blah? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because I knew that her daughter was on the phone when they would have the doctor's appointments. I was really glad to hear that. It's like awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So important.
hmm Yeah. So life is interesting.
Well, and I think one of the important things too is to be patient with yourself, be
Mhm.
kind to yourself. Yes, it's your friend who's transitioning, but you are also feeling it and being
Right.
impacted yourself. Tammy Hill said, when my sister passed, I saw a picture of my dad and brothers on the wall that already had passed. They really saw my sister like they were showing her they were with her.
Mm, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's sweet, Tammy. Thank you for sharing that.
hmm Yeah, I was actually kind of because when I was there yesterday morning, her lips were moving, like she was almost like she was talking. And I know a couple of the people that she knew that have transitioned. It's like, oh, I'm wondering if they're showing up. Um, I'm assuming that they were there helping her, with whatever. So you never know what they can see.
Nope. Or who they can see.
Yeah,
Well, and we don't really know what is happening for them that is
mhm,
helping them to prepare to
right,
transition. We don't
right.
know what that process is. You had mentioned, sort of tongue in cheek, the angel of death,
Mm.
but I think there's more reality to it. But when you think of the angel of death, what comes up for you?
Well, I'll tell you, everybody says it's Archangel Azrael. And when I would be with people, it was always Archangel Gabriel that I saw. And I remember talking to somebody, it's like, I wonder why I always see Gabriel. And the way that they said that they see it, and it totally makes sense, is well, Gabriel's all about communication.
Mm.
And so you got what's going on here and you're transitioning to something else. So if somebody's transitioning into something new, don't you kind of want to find out, well, what do I need to know? Who do I hang around with? You
Mm.
know, where are the good spots to go? So that totally made sense to me that it was Archangel Gabriel that I would always see. But I also, going back to what was that TV show? Touched by an Angel.
Oh, sure.
Uh, what was his name? Andrew?
Yes, I
Andrew?
think so. Yep.
And I think his last name was actually in real life, I think his last name was Dye. But he was the angel of death. But he was so kind to them and would just, it's like taking a little old lady by the hand and helping her across the street. So the angel of death isn't like the Grim Reaper,
No.
whatever. It's like, no, they're just helping them transition. And whatever it is that you need, do you need me to walk slower? Do you need this, a little different? What is it that you need to help make this as as easy, with ease and grace, as possible?
I know in meditation, I met Archangel Azrael and was explained to me that he was there whenever anybody transitioned. So when you said Archangel Azrael, I was like, yeah, that's what I've heard, that's what I've seen. It was interesting when my dad passed because I had told him what I had seen. And as my dad was passing, um, he said something like, Ruth, it's different than you explained, or something.
That's
It was,
funny.
it was different. Something was a little different. And I thought, oh, so was it not Azrael? Or what was different? I can't wait to hear what was different. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for everybody, it's going to be a little bit different. Everybody needs something a little bit different. But I did tell her that the other day. Oh, because her daughter was in there too. And she goes, yeah, she's been hot most of the time, but she was never hot. And it's like, I kind of jokingly said, wink, wink, said, I think that's because there's so many angels in here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I do believe like the last day or so, your body is reacting and like some parts of it are starting to shut down and some parts are kind of keying up while other things are shutting down. I mean, it's kind of fascinating in a scientific way to
Yeah.
just go, oh, what's happening to this machine here that has been
Hmm.
running beautifully for 80 years? And
Right.
now it's starting to shut down. Yeah, my dad's temperatures were a little wonky as he was going out too. It was pretty fascinating. But I remember at one point, I mean, my dad was really quite lucid until the last hour. Um, but at one point, and I really was trying to figure out if it was like the root chakra he was talking about, but he was complaining about this cord that was like wrapped around his middle, his waist, that he couldn't undo the cord. Well, my dad wanted to go. I mean, he was to that point because at one point
Yeah.
he asked us to smother him with the pillow. And I said, no, we're not doing that. No, I said, Dad, I love you and I will not go to jail for you. So I'm sorry, I can't do that. But he was talking about this cord wrapped around his middle and he couldn't get the cord to let go. And I was so fascinated with, wow, wow, what? Hmm.
What was that about?
Yeah, I don't know if that had to do with the root chakra. I don't, they talk about the silver cord
Mhm.
when, someone's out on the ethereal, doing the astral travel or what. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Tammy Hill wants to know
Mm.
if do we have time to do one, Sue? Are you okay
Yeah.
to do
No,
Tammy?
we can do one for Tammy.
She just said, I wanted to know if my loved ones on the other side have any messages for me. I miss them every day.
Mhm. Let's see what we get. Let's see. Besides feeling the love,
Mhm.
Miss Tammy. Oh, that one came out. That one almost flipped the deck. Notice the flowers I sent you. So what was so funny is I'm shuffling, I'm looking up, I glanced at the beautiful sage that's huge right now, flowering.
Oh,
And then I noticed the flowers. Okay, so obviously they want me to notice the flowers. These are fuchsia. Actually, it's a cross between the light of the and the
oh,
wine, but it's kind of a fuchsia bright color. And so what this is saying to me, Tammy, is they are all around you in the the way that they are and the where that they are, because they are all around you. And I think they are with you in so many different ways to help you see that they are still with you and to bring a smile to your face. You know, even if you're looking at, like if you were glancing at these beautiful flowers and all of a sudden you get a, a memory of when you were a little girl, you know, it's things like that, that the flowers are the spark that is sharing the love, if that makes sense. That's what it feels like to me, Miss Tammy.
so Tammy, it was interesting. Right when I read that you wanted a message, I heard trumpets, and I'm going to go with Gabriel on that. But I heard the great homecoming. And, we've been talking about Sue's friend all this time, but I believe that there's some carryover. I believe, well, my dad told me, actually, my dad had an out of body experience, a couple 18 hours before he actually transitioned. And he said that he was walking down, it was a tunnel if you want, or whatever, but he was walking and he was being cheered on. Welcome back, Chuck. You did a great job. Yay. I mean, so excited that Chuck was coming back. And he was totally bummed that he was coming back to us. Truly bummed. But that's what I'm feeling. And I heard the great homecoming. And I believe whenever a soul passes, there is cheers and excitement that someone is going back to the ethereal realm. And I know we're talking about Sue's friend, but I also know that Tammy, some year when it is your time, there will be so much cheering for your great homecoming. I know you've got more friends over there than probably over here at this point, more friends and family. There will be a huge homecoming when it's time for you to join them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
friends, thank you so much for being here with us today. Sue, do you have anything else you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
Just just continue, everyone, to share the love with your loved ones, with those you care about, whether they are here or transitioned, and whether they are here with you or on the other side of the planet, it doesn't matter. Share the love.
Yeah, beautiful. Because even if they are in the ethereal realm, I know that they can hear us, they can
Mhm.
feel us, they know what's happening in our world, in our
Yeah.
lives. So,
Mhm.
yeah, beautiful words. All right. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Tammy. Take good care, everybody. We'll see you here soon. Bye.